Welcome to CMMS Radio, a podcast, blog site, and general resource for all things CMMS, computerized maintenance management software, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey. We'll bring in experts along the way to help us learn more about CMMS, facilities operations, and much more. If you need help with the CMMS project, send a message at CMMSradio.com using the What's on Your Mind link. Suggest a topic, share your CMMS story, or ask questions. Thanks for tuning in. Today, we are joined by Alex Cummings. He is the CEO and co-founder of FlowPath. That is a facilities management platform. And what we're going to do today is talk about the journey story and really kind of what led everybody, on your team to form FlowPath, start building FlowPath. And later on, I'm going to talk about something really cool that you guys just released, but I'm going to do that a little bit later in the episode. So thank you for joining me today, Alex.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Happy to finally be on the podcast here. It's been a long time coming, so I'm glad we made it happen.
Absolutely. And so with that, I would like to first start by talking about, if you're okay with it, your military background, because as a U.S. Marine and amphibious assault vehicle platoon commander, and then you moved into operations, I'd like to know how that kind of set you up and then influenced your journey into facilities management. So if you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's certainly a mouthful to say that title. But amphibious assault vehicle platoon commander effectively was a platoon of 48 Marines, 12 vehicles that went from Navy ship to shore, bringing infantry on. I think D-Day landing vehicles in the modern kind of era. They are tracked vehicles that float. They've got a turret for machine guns. They've got lots of moving parts and pieces, a huge diesel engine, really heavy logistics and supply chain required to support them wherever they go, and daily maintenance and preventative maintenance required. So the preventative maintenance and maintenance logs were kind of the Bible of the vehicle, and I had to hold my team accountable weekly for doing everything and making sure that every part was polished and touched. And we had first and second echelon maintenance performed on the vehicles ourselves, and anything third echelon and above that needed to go into a special kind of metal or welder or larger overhaul capacities, kind of the annuals. They were performed within the battalion, but we didn't handle those. But yeah, keeping track of all those things just got me into a mindset of staying on top of preventative maintenance in my assets and managing teams and everything that kind of goes along with it. And so from a very early age, right out of college, that was a great exposure to just, what right can look like when it comes to maintaining assets.
Very good. And I think what's really helpful about that, and I have some background in it, but of course, I wasn't in the military. So first and foremost, thank you for your service and what you did and what you do.
Sure.
I find that with some of the people I talk to that are retired military or even active military, what's really important about what you were doing there is the maintenance and the things that you do, they're tight. And you also have essentially, I don't want to say playbook because that might be the wrong word, but you have built-in responses, if this, then that, when it comes to the equipment and what you're going to do. So it really sets you up well, in my view, for a disciplined, regimented approach to how you're conducting maintenance. And it even seems like it impacted or helps you with break fix situations, because there should be less breakage, and then the team has this super high level of familiarity with the equipment and all of its intricacies. Is that a fair statement about how it works when you're maintaining those pieces of expensive, important, critical equipment?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, within the platoon, there's 3 mechanics on staff that are detached to me, and they're the ones that are like, if there's anything beyond what a typical crew member can assess on the spot, they're kind of called up. Same thing for a radio operator. just as a medic would be kind of assigned to a platoon as well to manage the bodies. In the human aspect of it, we are very dedicated, at least within those battalions, to maintaining the physical components of it. And so lots of tolerances of what can and cannot be done whenever you're trying to fix something. But because everybody does touch every single part on that vehicle once a week, for the most part, you are very well in tune with how things are running or what need to be going into it. Now, is everything perfect? Does it always get fixed the way it should? Probably not always. I mean, the Marine Corps, more than any branch of service, is known for doing more with less. And so I can say I've seen hydraulic lines fixed with some MRE, Tootsie Rolls, and duct tape. But, it gets you out of, whatever situation you're in to wherever you can get, the parts that you need. And so really, really good experience all around there with, to your point, of the exposure of what right looks like, and the adaptability and critical functionality and componentry of it all.
So now with that, I want to switch into a little bit more recent times where you and your co-founders started this journey, had this vision for launching FlowPath. And I know in between your military service and then the launch of FlowPath, you did a couple of other things that were, in a lot of ways, good exposure to how other types of operations function. So you were getting exposure to different workflows, if you will, in different scenarios for a few years. How did that really influence, along with your military, but now we're moving into after military, the launch for FlowPath? How did that really happen when you, Griffin, and Brandon got together on this and said, hey, we've seen a problem here. How can we get together and fix it?
Yeah, it kind of the genesis of it all uh, can start kind of with my portion of the story. There's three co-founders, the FlowPath, that intersected mid to late 2019. But prior to that, I was in an operations capacity at Lyft, the rideshare company, and was using a competitive software, and so was exposed to maintenance management software, and kind of all of its glory and all of its shortcomings. Had been kind of digging deep into where the challenges within the software lied, and kind of the functionality of it that could be more broadly applicable for non engineering and or professional maintenance people that are trying to keep plants up and running, creating widgets 24 hours a day. More of the general facilities management professional, which was more of a capacity that I was in. I didn't go to school. I have an economics degree. I'm not an engineer. And so that's kind of a little bit more of the thinking that I had was, how can we make this more broadly applicable, and particularly to my team and everybody that interacted with it. My brother Brandon is a software developer, and we had been kind of thinking through ways that we could design a system that really solved a lot of the problems and challenges that were out there. And some of his background is in data science, and so a lot of the data that we capture within the system gets him excited with other things that we can do for providing analytics and predictability within how we present data for our customers now, but kind of had that idea back then. And then the third component of it in Griffin, he was running his own company as a vendor, as a facilities vendor, and just had all the challenges that came with being a vendor in the industry. And when we kind of put our heads together, a lot of his challenges within the workflows and the management of the customers and the education components and the capturing of the invoices and the payments and everything else that went along with it, a lot of his challenges were very parallel to mine. Just they kind of called them different things, and ultimately he needed to interact with the system in a similar way that I did from the inside, but from a vendor perspective. And so we pieced together what initially we called Vendor Loft, because we designed a system that was meant for in-house operations teams to interact in a more involved way with third-party contractors that came out and supported the operation. And then after doing a lot of customer discovery and putting that product in the hands of people that were using it, we figured out that there was a much deeper use case applicable towards facilities management professionals, keeping the strong vendor focus and the vendor integration piece to it, but kind of flipping the system to be more work order and asset centric. Um, but knowing that whoever's working on that asset or performing the work on the work order may not be uh, somebody on staff in house. It's a third party vendor that may need to come perform the work. And so, what we had designed and the way that we envisioned the interaction occurring actually was kind of ahead of its time and very much applicable to the way that the industry is moving with just the kind of turnover that we are seeing across verticals. So, it was good.
Yeah, what's interesting to me is how the three of you had the unique perspectives to really kind of enhance a unifying vision, yet you've maintained a certain amount of flexibility to now understand the actual boots on the ground that are using the platform. It's not just for this, it's not just for that person. So, vendor versus someone who works at a company that's utilizing the platform. But the problem you're really trying to solve seems to be around a better experience from a usability perspective so that people could actually really get it done and they didn't have to have this super deep understanding of how the software is developed and how the database is set up and all those things, where they can actually come in and effectively use it so they could focus on their work, do more of their work, creating efficiencies, protecting assets in a better way. Is that a pretty fair statement as to what that culmination was?
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, it evolves a little bit every day with more and more feedback. The simplicity of the system was a bit of luck with us, not luck, but just kind of timing, right? We are very software forward in focus of like modern. We're all users of modern technology and understand the benefits of really good software, whether that's from managing high performing teams in a large, software enterprise, or um, yeah, and then you can kind of compile that with Brandon and his experience building software for startups and like what good really looks like when it comes to user experience and design. And so piecing together the functionality that we understood to be core as needs for our customer base, and then making sure that the outcomes that were achieved were done in just the easiest way possible. And so that's really been kind of part of the highlight of our sell is when we get on demos and people are like, man, it really is so simple. You can get everything accomplished in one place. It reduces the amount of clicks we have to do to get to certain pieces of information or to add things to the work order. It just, it's kind of, it's a no brainer to make sure that people's lives are easier. And so we're glad that we've been able to accomplish that from the initial iterations that we've gotten through to this point.
Definitely. And I've been privileged to see some of that and talk to some of the people that use it and get the feedback on what it was like for them to, for example, transition from one system to another and really further empowering their teams to accomplish what they want. It's not clunky. It's very straightforward. It's extremely robust, and it has a pretty deep feature set. But for me, a lot of times I'm thinking, people don't care about your features. What they care about is solving problems. But the way that it does it and the way it flows is really straightforward, easy to understand, and you've got some other features and functions throughout the platform that go these additional steps further, but people don't have to get stuck on those. They don't even have to use them if they don't want to. So I like that flexibility about it. Now, question, is there a specific area within the CMMS or facilities management space that you find the most rewarding? And you can do with that question whatever you want. Like, what about the space really excites you to see and participate in with your clients, industry, etc.?
Yeah, I see a huge need in. I get a lot of satisfaction from every single K-12 and education client we get, particularly when they're taxpayer funded organizations. I think there's a bit of a real need just to kind of support um, those organizations to make sure that they're being as the best stewards of the taxpayer dollar as possible. But they're also, you know, knowing that there's just so many out there, and what they go through on a day in and day out basis to help, educate the next generation. It's just nice where, we can help them where possible. I think that's a bit, pointing back to my roots kind of in the military, but also just forward looking. It's nice to know that you're impacting, an environment of the next generation. And so that particular vertical really excites me, and gives me a lot of satisfaction there.
That's great. And it's important because you mentioned one thing, it's critical, it's the future. And what we do today, no matter what, no matter who you ask, whether you agree or not, doesn't matter. It impacts the future. So when you're enabling these types of facilities to do better at what they already they're really trying to do a great job, and this can help them do that even better. I think that is immensely rewarding and somewhat intangible when it comes to what the long-term benefits of that are going to be, but it definitely has a trickle down. Now, is there anything unexpected that came up with your did you have any shifts in your view of facilities management and CMMS as you were building out, onboarding clients? Did something come up where you had to make a shift or a pivot that was unexpected?
I don't think we've necessarily made a shift that was unexpected. I think the level of depth available in software today is unexpected because it's unexpectedly shallow, um, for what for all of our customers and what they say that their end goals are and what their jobs entail. Um, I think software to this point has really kind of let them down, or has become too complicated of a larger system to where they need to piece 100 functional components together that are bought a la carte and they don't necessarily work together well. And it makes a lot of people have trade-offs and make decisions for, I don't have budget for that, but that means that I won't have necessarily a really good forecasting tool now because I just need to focus on PMs. But in reality, when you're thinking about how a large school district should be focusing their time, attention, and resources over the next 10 years, you probably need a better forecasting tool kind of as like a base component of whatever tool that you're using. And so we have a slightly different value approach to what we're trying to offer to people because we understand the full scope of work that's required of the job that hasn't necessarily been met, um, by existing systems. And so we think that's where the biggest problem lies that we're trying to solve. Um, I mean, in terms of big pivots, for functional areas of our system, no, not necessarily. I think the surprise again has just been like how shallow the offerings have been to this point because we're recognizing, well, great, well, the platform that we are providing as a software can be broadened, and there's just so many points to touch upon that it's not just work orders, it's so much more than that.
Absolutely. Work orders necessarily leads to asset management, preventive maintenance management. And your solution even has things like project management capability, which allows somebody to, within their maintenance function of an organization, lean in on that extra piece of functionality so they can further benefit. Because some people work in different ways, different styles within an organization, although they may meet the main criteria of process or processes, right? SOPs, etc. But this person, that person, and this person over here may need a project management aspect, and they can do things with moving the cards around for the work orders. And I think that's a nice value add. And there's one thing I'm going to talk about in just a couple of minutes or so relative to how you're helping people understand who and what you are prior to jumping into a full engagement, but I'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. One thing, you guys are at an exciting stage because you've covered quite a bit of ground. There's been a really nice evolution of the platform itself because I've seen more than one version of it now. So I really like what I'm seeing there. I get great feedback, as I mentioned earlier in this episode, from the people I've talked to that use it. So that's always good. I want to understand a little bit about the process changes and how how do you approach changes to the platform? Do you focus purely on existing client set to gather those learnings prior to making a change, or do you look at industry trends and where that's going, or is it a little bit of both?
It's a little bit of both of those things, and then a third component of kind of pointing back to the origin story of what other tools, tools that are out there that are tangential to the space, or maybe not even at all applicable to the space, that we can pull in good features that they have and functionalities that they have, and apply them and make FlowPath even better, and give them to all of our customers that they may not have thought about prior to that. And so an example of that is the way that our work orders are managed in our system. The different dashboard views that you have, the list views and the table views, are all inspired by different project management systems out there. If you look at the big brand, like we've got the Kanban boards, we've got simple data tables, which is probably table stakes in most other softwares, but um, we connect them to calendars. There's different ways that people want to look at it, and so we try to provide as much flexibility for you to work under your own, um, whatever way makes you feel most comfortable for how you want it to integrate it there. And so it's a bit of all three of those things. And I mean, our customer feedback is daily. We have a chat functionality in our app, and it allows people to just ask us questions, say, hey, this isn't quite working as what I thought it would be, or hey, here's what I need to accomplish. Can I do it with this thing? And we're listening. We're making little tweaks here and there. The bigger tweaks are compiled and thought about holistically with our goals for the roadmap for what we're trying to do, and the new tools that we're trying to bring to the table versus the things that we want to enhance and make better than our competition. Because I mean, a lot of getting into maintenance management systems is just building out the table stakes of what's required. And so um, you can't have preventative maintenance without an asset component. You can't have inventory management without inventory, and then none of it's really useful if you don't have any reporting on it all. And so like you have to build out some baseline of a system and before you can really get into the weeds of what tweaks you're going to make and enhancements you're going to perform. And so there's a balancing act there for us to grow as a company, but to continue to enhance existing functionality. And that's another thing that I think our customers really like, and it comes out in all of their reviews of us on Capterra and everywhere else, that we take all of their feedback very seriously and we act on it very fast. It's important to us to continue to evolve, not just with new things. Yes, we're going to continue to build new things. We're going to grow as a company in that way, but making iterative, valuable changes to the way the UX is laid out, or how you can interact with something, or maybe add a new tool here or there, a new notification customization functionality. We're going to be constantly figuring these things out and getting feedback and adding them as fast as possible, because our customers need it, and that's important to us. And so that's a long answer to a tough question, I guess, and it's probably only partially answered, but it's there's a lot of work that goes into it. And so I will shout out, though, even just for the new redesign and even the logo, like the puffin here, we've got a great team, and particularly Ben on an engineering team. He does a lot of great design work and puts a lot of time into the rebrand thoughts, into things like our fonts, where things sit in the system, how people interact with them. Does it need to be a drop down or check boxes? Like all of these things are thought through and really kind of looked at in detail before we put them out into the wild and release them out to our customers. And so a lot of good work. It's a really strong team. Very, very happy to have them all, rowing in the same direction with us.
Definitely. And speaking of the puffin, I always have to ask, if we're talking about anything that has to do with FlowPath, I need a little bit of time dedicated to the puffin because it's fun. It's interesting. A lot of people don't know what a puffin is. So if you could speak to that just a little bit, because I think it was a part of the history that is still maintained because it was actually kind of special to the team and kind of the view.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, there was a bit of an infatuation by some of the co-founders at the beginning of early lives of FlowPath. The puffin now serves as our kind of mascot. If you find an error page in FlowPath, there's a puff in there. Other than that, it's kind of just a closely held secret. And I'm not. I think the folklore around it is just going to continue to grow because you're not going to crack the nut here. But we are handing out, puffin shirts to customers, especially ones that leave reviews, and good or bad, just a review. You're going to get a puffin t-shirt. And I think we just mailed out something close to 30, 35 of them. So super excited to do that. It's a badge of honor and people love it. And so it's going to be a long time mascot of FlowPath.
Yeah. And I love that you'll get a bit of a call out by the puffin if there is an error page or anything like that. I think that's great. Now, I want to switch from that to something I was talking about a little bit earlier, and that is something that you guys recently put out that I love it because I always wanted to do this in my past world with CMMS, and the way you've done it is really good. And what it is it's a very useful tool for clients to get a taste of and see the platform and essentially walk through the platform overview. And when you go to that, and that's at getflowpath.com/product, and you will be able to actually see the platform, some different segments of the platform. It'll give you an actual interactive walkthrough. And what I find so important about that for people that are on this search trying to find a CMMS platform, they're in facilities management and they have a system that's just not quite working right for them, and they want to get out there and do a little bit of research, and they don't necessarily want to jump into the sales process. They're not quite ready for that. They're kind of looking for what they're looking for, and then they're going to actually take those steps. I think that's a really valuable tool for buyers to, in a sense, self-serve and figure out if they like what they're seeing and then engage, as opposed to reading a bunch of content. Although you do some reading on that, you've got the platform itself in the background with the different call outs, and you can click on the arrow to go to the next slide. And it's really a convenient way for people to learn about the FlowPath platform, the things that it has, what it does, and actually the rationale behind why it does that. Feels like it's in each of those messages. And just so everybody knows that here's this particular episode, there is going to be an episode dedicated to that comes out very shortly, so that people can kind of see it and get an experience of what it is, and why we think that's an important way for them to learn about FlowPath without feeling obliged, so to speak, to engage with someone and get on a bunch of discovery calls and all that kind of stuff. It allows them to keep it simple. So I just wanted to say I really like the tool. I'm glad that you guys put that out, and I think it was really well done.
Yeah, thanks. It's we're using, to give a shout out to a fellow portfolio company of our investors, Turiel, located here in Atlanta, but they've got a great platform that allows you to really easily put these together. And so definitely check those out. Turiel, Tourial. So we've been using their platform to do exactly what you just said, right? It's exposing and giving a taste of what the functionality of our platform is at a very low risk involvement from prospects. I think you, Greg, more than a lot of people understand the sales process and the buyer's mentality of going through maintenance management software, and kind of as a prospect, that everybody wants to know, what their network is using and how. And so one of the biggest things we get asked for is, can I get, a demo environment, or can I get a trial, or I need a referral. And so there's all of these kind of hurdles we have to overcome. And, there's ways of dealing with lots of them, but what's good is typically we found that people ask for kind of trial instances or an account that they can get in and click around after all of our conversations happened. And so we're trying to eliminate that, because it's hard to control that environment, particularly when maintenance management systems require a lot of data to really kind of see the benefit of it. And so just kind of starting with a blank account doesn't get you much. So using our demo environment data and creating a click through kind of tour, so you can see how interactions occur and what things look like and get a feel for scrolling through a work order, for instance. Um, that's really important. So we push that out very immediately and bring kind of a mini demo to prospects so they can answer the questions kind of up front. Does this look interesting for me? Get a feel for it.
Yeah, and I think what I really like about it, and this is something I'm just going to point out for anybody's benefit that they may or may not be overlooking. I'm not saying you're overlooking it, but I want to call it out. When you're looking at something like that, the advantage is that you don't have to get into this real-time trial that needs some setup and you need some learning on how to get through it and really assess it properly. So what you're looking at when you look at the interactive product tour at getflowpath.com/product, when you go through that, you're seeing the actual system, you're seeing the actual data that's already set up. So what I want anybody that's looking at that to do is understand your system can be set up exactly like that. There's no smoke and mirrors there, and it's the actual platform, it's actual data that makes sense. So I encourage anybody to check that out. And with that, I want to switch to kind of another subject, and because I want to be mindful of your time. So, Alex, if you had to pick one area within FlowPath that drives the most ROI or process improvement for your clients, what would that be? And I'm not saying you have to be right, but I'm just wondering what's the first thing that kind of jumps out of your mind that this is where I'm seeing people benefit the most and in this way?
Yeah, the thing that stands out immediately is everybody is trying to have a more um, robust preventive maintenance program, and majority of our customers are switching softwares coming from some other software, and there are a laundry list of challenges with their current setup, and so getting them into a more functional, easier to use setup is kind of priority one, and they love that functionality of it where it's just easy to set up. If users are switching departments or leaving, it's easy to just manipulate that. And sorry about that. It's also easy to transition these across the system, really easy to replicate them if you're scaling your particular organization or you've built a new campus. So that is, far and away the number one request whenever we are, prospecting or talking to potential customers. It's showing them how detailed of a preventive maintenance program they can get set up just really easily out of the box with very minimal work. Um,
Right.
and a lot of that is just ingesting old data into our system and being able to have them manipulate it from day one. So um, that provides a lot of value.
I agree. And I think the reason I asked that question is sometimes it's different than what people might expect, but they also get that more pure insight from where you sit. As a founder, what's important in my mind anyway when it comes to these journey stories, origin stories, is getting to know who you're working with. And that's why I like the idea of having you on so that people have a way to learn, might inspire some ideas for them, but they also get to know you and your approach to like what's meaningful to you for and about your clientele. And I think that's where the real magic happens. Aside from a great system with wonderful features and conveniences and whatnot, it's, do you care about what their outcome is? That's where it really kind of comes full circle. That's very important to me. I think it's very important to you. I think it's very important to clients and users, even if they take it for granted. It's important to them. So now I want to switch to a couple of fun things before we wrap the episode. Favorite sports team?
Of any sport.
Any sport?
Oh man. I mean, I grew up in Tallahassee, Florida. I'm a big Florida State football fan. I didn't actually go to Florida State. My two co-founders both went to Florida State, but growing up there, um, big Seminole fan
All
at
right.
heart. So I'll,
Good.
I'll root for the Knowles.
Good. 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 And another question is just generally speaking, when we talk about the future of facilities maintenance and management, what do you see coming, and how does FlowPath play a role in that future?
Yeah, man, that is it's the $1 million question, right? Could sit at a bar and talk about this for a while. Where we see the particular industry heading, like where we're, you know, dabbling in now in the facilities management space, is more into kind of the hybrid management approach, but also, you know, a more involved hybrid management approach from more robust third party contracting companies. Um, and so taking the scope of work and expanding it to involve these vendors and third party facilities management outsource companies is necessary. And so that's where our roadmap lies. Um, it inherently, in what we're designing to allow for seamless communication between all parties, inherently improves our existing customer base and the maintenance management system, but increases the scope of applicability to be a platform that somebody can use to manage their entire business off of. And in fact, we already have customers that have spun off a side business as a third party maintenance facilities management company and started bringing on clients and managing those clients through FlowPath. And so we have a unique two-way capability here to where we're both being the in-house system of record with the maintenance management system, but also being the provider's system of record to manage their business. And so that is uniquely FlowPath, and that is what we see is necessary to allow for this evolving industry to to continue to grow. Uh, with the heavy headwinds of reduced skilled talent in the trades, not being able to replace the in-house technicians that are currently on staff in K-12 environments, for instance. You're going to more heavily rely on outsourced facilities management companies. But even seeing where they are having challenges now with existing software, nothing connects, nothing talks, nothing communicates. There's no way of providing updates to, hey, you're executing on this preventative maintenance schedule. What is that doing for your longer term, needs and budgets and decision making? And so the hybrid approach is going to need to be more involved, and the software that is going to facilitate that involvement just isn't here yet. And so we are designing that. And so I think we're in a unique place to where we've got a head start. And it seems to be wide open pastures for us to jump in and learn and develop a product that makes a lot of sense for a lot of people. So we're excited about the future for us.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of that is kind of, people can read about this, and I've talked about it in a previous episode, where you have the Service Titan integration, which kind of is exactly on that path to a more, I'm just kind of coming up with this right now, but not just an integrated facilities management and maintenance approach, but you're building it out a little bit further to make that kind of seamless transition between all players, and everybody kind of gets moving in the same direction. They've got the right pieces of data, the same pieces of data, so that they can respond, not react, but respond accordingly, and kind of stay in that forward motion, moving towards constant process improvement, because that's a critical part of your process if you're working with third party vendors, because you don't have the in-house staff to turn that particular type of wrench or whatnot. So I think that's great. For people that want to get in touch with you, Alex, what is your preferred method for people to reach out and get connected with you? Is it on LinkedIn, or do you have other preferences?
Yeah, most active on LinkedIn, so that's easy. Alex Cummings. I think I'm Alex Cummings 3 on LinkedIn, but you search FlowPath, I'll be associated to it. You'll probably see some posts around it. It's easy to shoot me a DM on there, connect with me, and we get on the socials. We have Twitter handles, no Facebook, no Instagram, but yeah, LinkedIn would be the best spot there.
Yeah, and just to confirm that, I think that's how you and I originally got connected. It's probably it's less than 2 years ago. But so for anybody out there that wants to really learn about FlowPath, and you want to talk to Alex or get in touch with Alex, you can find him on LinkedIn. We've got a little bit of information on CMMSradio.com that you can click through and get connected with them. And, just reach out, go to their website. And if you do talk to them and get working with them, let them know you heard about us on CMMS Radio. So, Alex, I really appreciate your time today. This was some great information. We're probably going to do it again. I think in the future, we'll probably have Brandon on when there's some time for that. But thanks for your time today. And, hey, Happy New Year. I hope 2023 is going to be phenomenal for FlowPath, your entire team, and all of your clients.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me. Thanks for what you're doing for the maintenance space and in the software and keeping everybody involved. So, yeah, again, reach out on LinkedIn if you want to touch base with me, or just go to getflowpath.com, check out our tours, fill out our form, sign up for a demo, and we'll be in touch. But Greg, thanks for hosting here. This is great.
It's my pleasure. And thank you so much, Alex, for making the time to come on and help everybody learn about you and what you guys do. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Did you find this episode helpful? Please send us some feedback, suggest a topic, or ask a question, and follow us on your favorite podcasting platform. Reach out to CMMS Radio if you need a co-pilot on your CMMS project, and keep listening to CMMS Radio. Do you have a CMMS story? We'd love to hear it. Visit CMMSradio.com and use the What's on Your Mind link. Thank you for tuning in to CMMS Radio, your resource for all things CMMS, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey.